let's talk about religion, and RageAfterStorm's disappointing video. So here are just a few of the statements that she makes that I'll be addressing, and if you feel that I'm taking her out of context, please feel free to call me out. I will of course be linking to her video below as well.
So in other words, there is something or some things in the sky that has created us and also controls you to shun Carol for not going to church this Sunday.
So her definition of God. This is a common atheist stumbling block. She seems to have no real concept of what religious people mean when we say God. And I'm glad that she throws out the idea of a man in the sky, or something that controls you, because no authentically religious person believes in this idea of God either. God is not the supreme being of many beings that he's created. He's not a being at all. Thomas Aquinas puts it as ipsum esse subsistions, or subsistent act of existing or existence itself. This means God is not simply something that is in the world, rather he is the condition for the possibility of the world to exist at all. This is something some people spend their entire lives thinking about, and like most of these topics, one video will never be able to do the 2,000 years of knowledge justice. I will, however, recommend reading Aquinas, who dedicated his life to thinking about the nature of God. But then we get to the religion that she spends most of her video criticizing: Christianity.
In addition to that, whereas many people see Christianity and Catholicism as relatively harmless, it actually isn't. The teachings within their holy scriptures still stand to be barbaric and detrimental to our societal development, because you can tell that no religion ever has brought society forward.
I'm not exactly sure what teaching of Christianity she claims to be barbaric, but I'm going to go ahead and assume she means something from the Old Testament. Again, this is extremely complex, and the subject of nearly 2,000 years of philosophical debate and discussion by people much smarter than us. But I will say that those passages need to be taken in context, and while important to the historical narrative of Judaism and Christianity, this is not a part of Christ's direct commandments. I will leave a great video in the description about this as well, but about his commandments, Jesus calls these his greatest ones. Jesus said unto him, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment, and the second is like unto it. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. So in her next video, I challenge Rage to present some barbaric and detrimental aspects that are presented as teaching in either the Bible or the Catechism of the Catholic Church. Medieval scholasticism, the ending of slavery, the civil rights movement, language development. It's hard to list all of the things that religion has done to bring society forward. Just take a guess who started Cambridge, Oxford, and Harvard? Christians. The Americas themselves were also colonized in the name of spreading Christianity. And according to most historians, we have some form of religion to thank for civilization itself. I will leave a list of sources in the description about this as well.
During these assemblies, when the head teacher or the teacher in charge of the assembly lit the candle at the end, we were told to put our hands together and close our eyes and imagine God as the flame. I went through this at a very young and susceptible age, and I was taught that if I did not put my hands together and close my eyes and pray to a being that I didn't even believe in, then something bad would have happened.
I really have no idea what this has to do with Christianity. The specific instruction to a student to put their hands together, close their eyes, and imagine God is the flame sounds like New Agey stuff that most Christians wouldn't even recognize. There is no Christian doctrine that would demand you do this or something bad would happen. And unfortunately, this makes me think that her experience in school can be mostly attributed either to her misinterpretation or uneducated teachers. Next, she shows the infamous Stephen Fry video, and she says this is pretty close to her own opinion on God. He is asked, if God does exist, what would you say to him?
I'd say bone cancer in children? What's that about? How dare you?
Now this is probably the closest she comes to actually posing a challenging issue to Christianity. However, we didn't need Stephen Fry to address this question. The topic of God and suffering is something nearly every Christian thinker has struggled with. Just a few of my favorites are Aquinas, Thomas Merton, St. John of the Cross, St. John Paul II, C.S. Lewis, Dostoevsky, Tolstoy, St. Teresa of Lisieux, and also the Book of Job. This is the most epic rant to God about suffering, and it's in the Bible. These questions aren't new to Christians in the slightest, and while I would love to elaborate more on this topic, there's a lot more I want to get to. And again, it's so deeply complicated, which I feel only further illustrates that Rage is doing herself a great disservice by not engaging more with religious philosophies. And one day I do hope to do an entire video on this topic, as it can actually lead someone to a deeper appreciation of Christianity when you actually take the time to understand it.
We were never taught the bad parts of the Bible or any other religious book out there. And it's kind of absurd that they never told us this, because religion has more negative aspects than positive aspects.
So we've already discussed the impact of religion on civilization, and I think that the introduction of university to the world is a pretty big thing. But how about how the Catholic Church is the largest charitable organization in the world? How about the millions of people who were inspired to turn their lives around and serve others? The lives of the saints is one of the biggest arguments for the Church. St. Augustine, St. Vladimir of Kiev, and Mary of Egypt are some of my favorites who had radical conversions.
We were given Christianity like a block of wood and they said, here, make something beautiful out of it. Let's face it was impossible to create something beautiful out of Christianity, because nothing beautiful ever came out of it.
I have to say that this comment absolutely floored me. What about Christian writers? C.S. Lewis, Gerard Manley Hopkins, Dostoevsky, Evelyn Waugh, Graham Greene, Flannery O'Connor? Are you going to tell me the things that they created, which was a direct result of their faith, were not beautiful? What about The Lord of the Rings? Are you aware it was named the greatest book of the 20th century? Why do you think that is? Just a fantasy, the orcs and the elves? No, because it appeals to the very soul of a person. It's a story of love, sacrifice, suffering, mercy, forgiveness, bravery, and faith. Tolkien was a devout Catholic, and his entire career, education, family life, and especially his novel, was absolutely drenched in his Catholicism. What about Bach, William Byrd, and the other composers of the English Renaissance? I dare you to listen to The Passion of St. Matthew or Ave Verum Corpus and tell me it's not beautiful. Bach is even called the fifth evangelist by some for his gospel-centered compositions. Without Christianity, there would be no Bach, Vivaldi, Tallis, Byrd, or practically any composers at all before the 20th century.
In my opinion, there is no beauty in self-submission.
Rage, have you ever loved anyone? Have you ever seen a sleep-deprived mother caring for her newborn when all she wants to do is sleep and take a shower? Do you think that Mother Teresa absolutely enjoyed every moment of her time in Calcutta? Do you think that Gandhi enjoyed his hunger strike while he was protesting apartheid? Do you know about Gianna Barrettamola, Maximilian Kolbe, or Isaac Jogues? Have you ever taken care of someone who is sick? If you can't find beauty in self-sacrifice or self-submission, and the beauty that it comes out of it, I don't know what to tell you.
You might expose your child to religious belief in a harmless way, but it still takes away bit by bit of critical thinking.
There are countless philosophers, artists, composers, inventors, and especially scientists that were known for their critical thinking skills. To say that religion takes away their critical thinking bit by bit is completely unfounded. Have you ever delved into the concepts of the Eucharist, transubstantiation, atonement, beatific vision, kairos, the nature of redemption, the nature of God and existence itself? These are topics of daily contemplation for Catholic theologians for almost 2,000 years, and they've historically always been critical thinkers. The very nature of the topics inspire critical thinking. Medieval scholasticism, both before and after the subsequent formalized foundations for the study of theology, is based in critical thought. And you think religion strips away critical thinking? I encourage you to take a look at just a few of the syllabi from Catholic philosophy courses that I have in the description. Theology challenges your critical thinking immensely.
Each religion gives you another set of rose-tinted glasses to wear. It enables us to see the universe a little bit differently. Fundamentally, all of these glasses tint your perception of reality. I don't wear these glasses, so I have the benefit of seeing the universe as the grave and disgusting reality that it really is.
Firstly, some of the darkest, depressing, and most soul-wrenching things have been written by Christians. As these are people who are extremely concerned with the ways of the mind, soul, good and evil, they are very much aware of the darkness in the world, and in themselves. They're able to see through that and find greater meaning in all of the chaos and evil. So I invite you to read The Death of Ivan Ilyich, Dark Night of the Soul, Power and the Glory, just to name a few. These works really explore what it means to be a human, with a soul and a spirit, and everything that goes along with that, the good and the horrible and everything in between. Secondly, anyone who tells you that they see the world totally objectively and without biases shouldn't be trusted. We all have experiences and opinions that shape how we see reality, and one of the first steps in being a mature adult with integrity is to acknowledge your biases and address them honestly. So Rage, I don't believe you don't have some kind of tint on your perceptions of reality, be it rose or any other color. So I don't expect you or anyone else to be converted by this video. But I felt that if you really wanted to have an informed opinion about critiquing religion, perhaps I could point you in the right direction. Unfortunately, you might find it takes a lot more research and thought and honesty than you may have given it in your first video.